So I had a presentation on river blindness, and this is actually a picture of the pathogen. It's about adult worms are about 300 millimeters in length, which is pretty large considering other diseases. What is river blindness? So the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, defines river blindness, or its uh, terminology, onchocerciasis, as a neglected tropical disease, which means that it's a group of like a parasitical or bacterial diseases that have caused billions of people around the world to have serious illnesses, and it typically affects like the poorer people. It's caused by the parasitic nematode, which is a round worm, like a little worm, called Onchocerca volvulus, and it's transmitted through repeated black fly bites, and infections can lead to blindness and skin diseases. So a brief history. The CDC states that onchocerciasis is typically found in more tropical climates, so you'll mostly find it in places like Africa. A study from Stanford shows that in 1875, the parasite Onchocerca volvulus was first observed by an Irish naval surgeon. In 1923, the role the black flies play in onchocerciasis was finally proven. And in 1932, the connection between blindness, skin wounds, black flies, and the parasite was further examined and officially understood. So if you take that into mind, it's a pretty we haven't learned that much about it. So it's a pretty new disease, and we're still learning more as the time goes on. And NCBI, which is the National Center for Biotechnology Information, explains that in the 1970s, one of onchocerciasis's first outbreaks took over West Africa. More than 60% of the savanna population carried the parasite, 10% of adults were blind as a result, and 30% were visually impaired. And symptoms of the disease were commonly seen in younger children. So river blindness today. The CDC disclosed that the disease is found in over 30 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. That makes up for like 99% of the cases. It has also been spotted in a few areas in America and Yemen, which is in the Middle East. Over 25 million people in the world are infected with river blindness today. 300,000 of those people are blind, and another 8,000 of them are visually impaired. Over 123 million people in the world are at risk for catching river blindness. And if you look at like the occurrence in the U.S. and other parts of the world, you had transmissions that were interrupted in 11 out of 13 locations in the United States. Like the transmission of the disease was stopped, and so there's no more worries. Transmissions were also interrupted in Colombia, Mexico, Ecuador, and Guatemala, so there's no risk for, or at least there's a very low risk for catching river blindness in those countries. And attempts to stop transmissions in one area in Venezuela and one area in Brazil are still continuing to this day. So symptoms, the World Health Organization, states that symptoms can include severe itching, skin lesions, which is like thinning of the skin and depigmentation of the skin. So you have people with darker skin, and it kind of looks like cheetah spots almost, with like white patches of skin. You also have nodules of all sizes that form underneath the skin and even around the eyes. And nodules are swollen cells. And they get to be inflamed to such large sizes. I would have shown pictures, but to be honest, they were just so disturbing that I couldn't even bear putting them on. So you also see symptoms of inflammation in the eyes, especially of the optic nerve, and clouding of the cornea. And this leads to visual impairment and even permanent blindness. And if you look like permanent blindness can come from the clouding of the cornea, but also the inflammation in the eyes can be so big that you can't even see. And symptoms are also caused by nematodes. Excuse me. Nematodes traveling through the human body in subcutaneous tissue and triggering intense inflammatory responses. But I'll speak more about inflammatory responses later. And nematodes are, these small worms. So the transmission of river blindness is pretty interesting. It's transmitted through black flies, as I said. So female black flies need blood for ovulation. They feed on humans throughout the day. If a fly bites an infected human, the Onchocerca volvulus larvae is taken in, and it moves directly into the flight muscles of the fly. and it begins to grow there over like the course of a week. After this week has, kind of gone by, when the fly bites another human, the parasite moves into the human's body, and it grows into adulthood over the course of 3 months to a year. And the worms reproduce, and the cycle continues. The parasites are noticed and detectable 10 to 20 months after the initial infection. It takes a while to notice it. And adult worms can live in the human body for up to 15 years, while the larva can live up in the body for up to 2 years. And that information was disclosed from the NCBI and the CDC. So here's the life cycle of the Onchocerca volvulus. If you look at step 1, the black fly takes a blood meal from the human, and what happens is, humans get infected in various ways, and so when the black fly bites an infected human or carries that, it's going to release the Onchocerca volvulus into the human. So if you look at step 2, it enters through the subcutaneous tissues, and as you follow the cycle, you see that the adults grow, and they produce unsheathed microfilariae, which I would equate to as offspring, from the worms. And they're typically found in the skin and connective tissue, but also in other places around the body. And so this is how the virus reproduces, and the cycle takes place. And and they last in the body for up to 15 years. And then you have a black fly that will bite a human that's already infected, and that's how the cycle continues. So the black fly, the microfilariae of the virus goes to the black fly, and then the larva reproduces, and as it starts to grow larger, that's when it's normally transmitted into the human body, and the cycle continues. So, didn't find much information on the structure of the Onchocerca volvulus, but if you look here, this is an image of the microfilariae, so it's a lot smaller than the adult worm. It's like a worm. It has a head, it has a tail. They're unsheathed, which means that they have no covering around them, or skin almost. And so the Onchocerca volvulus is a nematode, like a worm. The females are larger than the males, and the females produce millions of microfilariae, which are unsheathed, and they move directly into the blood of the victim. And this is how the humans are infected, and this is how when black flies bite humans, this is how they get the virus and transmit it. So how the immune system reacts. Since the Onchocerca volvulus lives in nodules within the human body's subcutaneous tissue, it's safe from the immune system, which is pretty interesting. Many people don't even experience any symptoms or pain when being infected, because the parasite can move through the body without provoking a reaction from the immune system. Needless to say, they do travel through nodules, so you will see giant cells that are swollen, and it causes huge bumps around your skin. But these aren't painful ones, and you can't really say that they're not a reaction from the immune system, a really inflammatory response. They are inflamed cells. It's pretty interesting. And no evidence has been proven that the human immune system plays a role in fighting back this disease. And cell-mediated immunity is not responsive throughout the infection. So the body doesn't do much to fight back this disease, which kind of means that you're stuck with it. And that was from the NTD program, which is the national, the Neglected Tropical Disease Program, and the NCBI. The mortality rate of river blindness has 0%. It can lead to permanent and costly consequences, such as loss of vision, though. But no one dies directly from river blindness. Treatment. The only known treatment that can completely wipe out the adult worms is toxic to humans, which isn't very helpful. But recommended treatment is the use of ivermectin, or the medicine Mectizan. This medicine kills off all of the immature worms and larvae. It stops the production of the microfilariae, which will stop the disease from progressing. Patients are usually treated 1 to 3 times a year. 3 times if you have like a more severe case. Once is just like standard treatment. And treatments should last 10 to 15 years as the adult worms are still present and they will reproduce. And now it's from the NTD program as well. Prevention and control. No vaccines or medications are currently available to help cure onchocerciasis and prevent humans from being infected. That doesn't mean that we can't use measures to protect and control the infection ourselves. The use of insect repellent is very important to make sure that you're safe from black flies and getting the disease, but also infecting others. And wearing long shirts and pants throughout the day is very important because that's when the black flies bite. It's throughout the day. So, and then permethrin treated clothing, which is like bug repellent treated clothing, is also pretty helpful. So you might be wondering, where in the world does the name river blindness come from? It's a pretty strange name. It doesn't sound anything like onchocerciasis. Where did that come from? So the black flies that transmit the disease are bred in fast-flowing rivers. And the disease can cause blindness. So that's where you get river blindness from. And here's my works cited. And that's it.